President Trump is continuing his campaign of retribution following his acquittal in the Senate impeachment trial last week. Last night, the White House withdrew the nomination of former U.S. Attorney Jessie Liu. She was nominated for a top post in the Treasury Department. Liu oversaw several prosecutions referred to the Justice Department by former special counsel Robert Mueller. And just hours before, 4 federal prosecutors quit the Roger Stone case, senior Justice Department officials intervened to lessen the recommended sentence of the president's convicted longtime associate. Well, this morning, Mr. Trump congratulated Attorney General William Barr for his intervention. He called the case out of control and slammed Mueller's initial probe. But yesterday, the president claimed that he didn't intervene in the Justice Department's decision.
Yes, I'd be able to do it if I wanted. I have the absolute right to do it. I stay out of things to a degree that people wouldn't believe, but I didn't speak to him. I thought the recommendation was ridiculous. I thought the whole prosecution was ridiculous.
Well, CBS News' White House correspondent Paula Reid joins me now. So, Paula, do we know why Barr decided to intervene in the Stone case? What have we heard?
Well, we're getting 2 different answers, one coming out of the Justice Department and one coming off of the president's Twitter account. The Justice Department's official explanation here is that the White House, the Justice Department, never discussed this case. They were quick to point out that the Attorney General and the president had not spoken in the 24 hours preceding this decision. Their version of events is that the lead prosecutor on this case, who had formerly worked for special counsel Robert Mueller, did not accurately convey information about the sentence that he was going to recommend to headquarters, to the main justice. So they say when the Attorney General found out about this recommendation, he objected and he intervened. They say it was all just a big miscommunication. Problem is, Rena, that is completely undermined by what the president has tweeted. Just hours before they sought this sentencing reduction, President Trump tweeted about this case, calling it, quote, horrible and a miscarriage of justice. And this morning, as you said in the introduction, the president congratulated the Attorney General for intervening in this case. Raises serious questions about the Justice Department's independence, the president's sort of post-acquittal behavior. Even one of his allies, Senator Joe Kennedy, said this morning, look, this tweet, it's problematic.
What did the recommended sentencing guidelines say Stone should have received? You're a lawyer, Paula. Are these normal recommendations?
There's nothing normal about this situation. For main justice, the headquarters of the Justice Department, to override career prosecutors who had overseen this case in this way, this is incredibly unusual. Though it is important to point out, it will ultimately be up to the judge in the case to decide what kind of sentence that he gets. Sentencing guidelines are very complicated, very confusing. Folks often like to know, so how much time does he or she face? It's a very complicated set of equations, and at the end of the day, it'll be up to the judge to decide, but I can guarantee you that judge is going to have some questions about why the Justice Department switched its stance on how much time he should receive.
So, Paula, even if we don't know for sure if the president asked Barr to intervene, what extent has Barr shaped the Justice Department around the president's effort to retaliate against his political opponents?
It's been really fascinating. We saw how he handled the special counsel's investigation. He came out with that short statement before anyone saw the report, characterizing it as pretty much an exoneration for the president and his campaign. Even Robert Mueller objected to that characterization. But it's been interesting to see how Attorney General Barr, this is his second stint as Attorney General, how he's really been willing to bow to the president's desire to pursue investigations against his political opponents. For example, he has appointed a U.S. attorney in Connecticut to look into the origins of the Russia investigation, something that has already been reviewed by an independent watchdog. Congress is reviewing this, but specifically, that's actually a criminal investigation looking at the Obama era officials who undertook this investigation. I'm told by sources it's unlikely that anyone will be criminally charged, but just by opening that, you really do give some validity to the president's concerns. Now, we also know the Attorney General has tapped the U.S. Attorney in Pittsburgh to look into anything coming out of Ukraine, including whatever Rudy Giuliani brought back in that suitcase full of information that he brought back from Ukraine. Rena, there's nothing wrong with vetting information, nothing wrong with that. But the question is whether the Attorney General is vetting all information equally. Because we know when the Justice Department received a criminal referral from the CIA about the president's call with the leader of Ukraine, he passed on that without interviewing a single person. They just decided no crime was committed here. So again, it raises a lot of questions about whether the Justice Department is putting its thumb on the scale to help the president. Important to remember, too, the Attorney General was front and center here with other cabinet members last week when the president held a celebration over his acquittal in the Senate.
You know, we also mentioned the president withdrew the nomination of Jessie Liu for the top Treasury post. Can you explain to us, Paul, what was her role and why is she withdrawing? Why is she drawing the ire of the president at this moment?
That's right. This is significant. It appears to be another move in the president's post-acquittal campaign of retribution. Jessie Liu was the U.S. attorney here in Washington. She received several referrals from the special counsel's investigation, and she oversaw the prosecutions of several of the president's associates, Roger Stone, Mike Flynn, and Paul Manafort. Now, she stepped down from her post as U.S. attorney in December, and she received this nomination for an upper-level post at Treasury. But yesterday that was withdrawn, and a source familiar with the thinking on this decision says, in fact, the president believes that she has wronged him with the way that she handled those referrals from the special counsel. The timing, though, Rena, to withdraw this nomination, her confirmation hearing was expected to be later this week, but to do that on the same day that the White House and the Justice Department were facing all these questions about the Roger Stone case, it's truly remarkable and suggests this White House is clearly trying to send a message.
It certainly does seem that way. I want to ask you, though, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, they're calling for the Inspector General to investigate Barr's actions with the Stone case. Is the White House concerned about these protests from Democrats?
I really don't think they are. They believe that they are playing at the edges of the president's authority. Look, the president, when it comes to investigating a president, when it comes to his authority, his ability to have some say over what the Justice Department does, they are really playing with a very expansive definition of executive power. The Attorney General believes in broad powers. He believes that the president really does have very broad authority, very broad powers. He believes that he's defending that. He believes that the president has been targeted unfairly, that there have been some justice officials who have gone too far, not been fair to the president, and that he's there to restore order. So he believes that even if the Inspector General investigated this, that he would ultimately be cleared. Rena, it's also important to note, Inspector General, he's the independent watchdog. Those investigations can take months, even years. So I don't think anybody here at the White House is really sweating an Inspector General investigation right now.
All right, Paula Reid at the White House. Paula, thank you very much. We'll have much more on this story later.